I'd like to say welcome to another segment of Recovery Live Global. Man, it's so nice to be back here once again. Man, you know, this show birthed out of the pandemic where we couldn't meet in our churches, in the basements, and face to face. And so the Lord had us just turn on the camera and take the Recovery Live Global program to another level. We got people, and I don't know where you're tuning in at, but first of all, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. My name is Jesse Washington, and I'm going to be your host. I am the host of Recovery Live Global. With me today, I have Mr. Uh, Elder Gregory Lindsey with us today, and I wanted to bring him on. He's a mover and shaker in the community, and I know he don't like me saying that with his humility, but I know his attitude is servitude, but I know who I'm sitting next to based on what the stats say. So I bring to you today Mr. Gregory Lindsey, who's going to talk to us a little bit about recovery from a few different modalities, like, you know, what do it look like in Wayne County? What do it look like for some of the stats? And is there any new nuances out there that you can use to connect yourself to the recovery process? I know it was a time there was no 1-800. There was no where do I go? Who do I turn to? The pastors didn't know. They put some oil on you and prayed for you and wondered why you went and picked up another rock, you know, right after the service. They didn't know. And so today, there's new evidence-based processes and programs out there that we want to talk about today. Come on, Lindsay, you can introduce yourself and tell them who you are and what you got to lend to the recovery processes as it relate to the community. Let's share some information with them. It may be a person out there that's watching the show or tuning in that's right there wanting help, have took a breath from the use of addiction, and they right there taking that breath, and they've tuned in to Recovery Live Global. I mean, what can we share with them at this point?
Well, I am excited and delighted to be here this afternoon sharing this platform with you, Elder Washington. You are a blessed brother indeed, and your heart is in not only recovery from drugs and alcohol, but recovery of a sin-sick soul. And so I am grateful to share the platform because those are also my passions and sentiments. My name is Gregory Lindsey. I am a Christian by faith. I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. I am by trade the treatment service administrator for Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network, and I am a father. I am a grandfather. I am a husband, and there are other titles I could mention, but I'm just glad to be here with my brother Jesse and discussing recovery. I am a child birthed out of the baby boomer generation, and I was around when they were making those black exploitation movies, and everybody wanted to be a Superfly. They wanted to be Mac. They wanted to emulate those characters. They also saw Superfly with a bottle hanging around his neck and a little spoon, and he would put things up his nose, and he had all the girls, the flashy cars, the money, and we wanted this, and I was a product of that. And when I was growing up, you know, not only did we emulate, we wanted to imitate those guys. And so, you know, I wanted to be a Superfly. I didn't want to work for the white man. I wanted to try to sell drugs and to get big bank. But I wound up using drugs. I started drinking at 15, smoking weed at 17, and wound up snorting heroin at 18. And with the heroin, it's a progression, and you finally turn out to injecting it because you find out that's the most economical and expedient way to use it. So I've been on the drug scene. I remember how they introduced drugs in the black community in the 60s, or when they had this powerful painkiller that they used, and we called them penny caps. It was simply a pain pill that you could pull apart, and we called them penny caps because it only cost $1, but it was way more potent than the heroin we was buying on the street. And this is how they introduced heroin in the black community. First, it was cheap, good quality heroin, which all of a sudden, when they discontinued making that, the pharmaceutical company discontinued making that particular pain product. Then they started manufacturing heroin on the street, selling it at a much higher price. And so a lot of people built up a tolerance and had addictions. And we just didn't know that there was a such thing as treatment centers. When you tried to stop using heroin back in the day, you just toughed it out. You were sweating and your stomach was cramping and you was throwing up for 2 or 3 or 4 days in order to withdraw. But I'm here to say that recovery is much different than it was 40 and 50 years ago. As a treatment service administrator for Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network, we believe in recovery, and I'm over the substance use disorder department, and I work under the direction of our director, Judy Davis, and we have a multitude of different resources that support recovery. You no longer have to tough out alcohol withdrawals, or uh, heroin withdrawals, or even methamphetamine withdrawals. Any withdrawals, anything that a person is physically addicted to, we have withdrawal management, was formerly known as detox centers. We have about 7 of those spread throughout Wayne County that can help a person to medically get treated so that they don't have to feel the discomforts of withdrawal. Then we have, after that, you can spend over 30 days in a residential setting to help stabilize you from whatever your dependence was, to get the chemicals out of your body and to clear it out of your mind. And yet you'll have therapists that will be there to give you some evidence-based practice theories on how to practice recovery. And then you'll have recovery coaches, those who have lived experiences like myself, who went through recovery, they had an addiction, and they can help you along the journey. After residential, we have intensive outpatient, we have outpatient services to help you to maintain your recovery. We have all kind of wraparound services like case management, because most people who have addictions, they normally burn their bridges, they lose jobs, they lose family, they lose income, and they don't have any resources, and mostly are homeless. But we have resources where a person can stay 4 months in a recovery housing setting, get case management that will direct them to resources on how to get a job, how to get, if you need clothing, you need food. They have a multitude of resources that they can direct you to help you to get established and back on your feet. If you need an education, it'll help you get back in school. We're here to support anybody in recovery because we do believe that recovery is possible. And Jesse and I are examples because we were there. We had burned bridges and lost jobs, and we had alienated ourselves from family, and we had physical addictions and mental addictions to substances that just seem impossible to break. But there are many avenues that you can traverse in order to get recovery, because some people don't believe in God. Some people don't believe in Jesus Christ. And so they don't go through the what we would call the religious doorway. They might go through the traditional doorway. But at Detroit Wayne, we even believe in faith-based recovery, and we have a faith-based collaboration with pastors, like Jesse said, that will help a pastor to get their members into the services that they need, instead of saying, well, I'm gonna pray it away, and I know you hooked on heroin, I'm gonna put some oil on your head and we're gonna pray this heroin demon out. It's still not gonna negate the physical the physical ramifications of your addiction. So we're saying, yeah, it's good to pray. I mean, when my eyesight is failing, you can pray for me, but I still need to go and get a prescription for my glasses. If I got a toothache, you can pray for me, but I still need to go to the dentist. What we're saying is we're here to support any pastor's effort as well. For me personally, Jesus Christ is my Savior, and he did help me to break my addiction back before any of this recovery or this support system was in place. I told the Lord that, Lord, if you just help me take this needle out my arm, I'm losing my family, I'm losing everything. I cried out to the Lord Jesus Christ, and he saved and changed my life. And I am so grateful for being in the recovery community, but I'm also grateful that he changed the direction and the trajectory of my life. I once was lost, but now I'm found.
Whoa, man, you said a mouthful. You said a mouthful right there. The different methods that's out there, like you said, to assist. There's a number out there, 1-800-241-4949, 1-800-241-4949. If you're in Wayne County, you could call that number. And there's availability staff 24 hours to walk you through and talk you through, and then link you to the services that will meet your need.
Yes, sir.
Far as recovery is concerned. Man, you said a mouthful, and I'm glad to be on the show talking about recovery, because there's so many pathways.
Yes, sir.
Some people go to the church, some people go to the treatment. Some people go through a car accident. Some people take a bullet, and that's it. But I found out when the pain outweighs the pleasure, people have a tendency to change.
That's it.
And so it's so many ways and methodologies and modalities that people go through to change this recovery platform. And I am so glad that because of the pandemic, it allowed me to move over and begin to talk recovery in front of a camera, talk recovery with headphones and a microphone, talk recovery on a virtual platform.
Yes, sir.
I don't know who watching, where you at.
Yes, sir.
I had she said, I'm in Kuwait. I'm watching the show. I'm in Jamaica. I'm watching the show. So people all over the world is able to tune in and get this information that recovery is available for you. You don't have to just die out there in your addiction.
Yes.
And you don't even have to suffer.
That's
because
right.
they have the medical assisted, medication assisted treatment now, that you don't have to go through the shakes and the withdrawals and the DTs and the strokes and some of the things that accompany a person that's coming off of alcohol and opioids. They have programs out here now where you could sit with a doctor and a nurse and a coach and a peer, and they can walk you through the processes of recovery, and it's available for you today. It's available for you today. And then you get so many different levels. And I talked about this on one of my other shows. I talked about how people get addicted.
My God,
and I told them that it start off sometimes as a experiment. As a experiment.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you just do an experiment. Everybody else doing it. Give me one.
Yes, sir.
And then the next thing you know is to move from an experiment to recreational. Now you
Yes, sir.
calling people saying, let's go get one. Or let's
That's
come
it.
together and get one. Now it's recreation. Next thing you know, you crossing the lines. You're abusing it now.
Yes,
You
sir.
driving under the influence. And
Yes,
it's
sir.
called impaired driving.
Yes,
And
sir.
you moving over, and now you into abuse, and then from abuse you move to dependency, and then from dependency you move to chronicity,
Yes,
where
sir.
where it becomes a real bad situation. And so if you out there and you finding yourself like experimenting, and I don't care what the society say, it could fool around and lead to an experiment to a recreation, and from
Absolutely.
recreation to abuse, and from abuse to dependency, and now you stuck out there because
Yes,
you
sir.
got chronic illnesses that started from an experiment. And I know that it ain't gonna happen to me. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna happen to you. I know how to use and drink responsibly.
Yes, sir.
I know how to do that.
Yes, sir.
So when I drink, I'm gonna have me a driver, to take me home. But once you under the influence, you forget that you had a driver, and now you out there driving down the street, and then flick, driver's license, registration, proof of insurance.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you walk this line? And the next thing you know, you done got yourself caught up with a DUI or driving under the influence, or
Yes,
you might
sir.
just get an operating under the influence. You can't even drive a high-low under the influence. You can't even work in what they kill hogs at.
Slaughterhouse.
You don't need to be in the slaughterhouse under the influence.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You know what I'm
sir.
saying? Because it impair your vision and your ability to think, and your cognitive skills is impaired. And I was at Red Lobster the other day, and man, the first thing the little lady came to say to me, "What you drinking?" And I say, well, see, water and lemon, please. But I was looking around, and I watched all of those people with those cherries and straws and lemons and pineapples, all on the toothpick, all on the glass. They even had glasses with umbrellas, And the people was just sitting there engaging. And I thought about it. Now they're gonna leave Red Lobsters and get in their car and drive home. And all of a
Absolutely.
sudden, you didn't caught one of those different kinds of cases that you don't want to wind yourself in. So I just want to reach out. That's what this
Yes, sir.
program is. This program is designed to educate and inspire our listening audience to learn as much as they can about addictions and recoveries, so that they don't have to. I asked the church, what's that in that glass? Is that grape juice or wine? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I have to ask some questions now. Is that grape juice or wine? I asked my dentist, what's in the bottle? What he say? Well, that's Tylenol 3s and 4s. I say, oh, whoa. Can you give me something that's non-narcotic? He said, well, I can do that. So he wrote me some Motrins and different things like
Absolutely.
that. So you gotta, the more we educate ourselves, the more we'll be prepared to navigate on this journey because the body don't know if I copped on 7 Mile or if my doctor wrote the script. Once it's
Yes.
inside the system don't know where it came from. All they know that it's impairing my vision, it's impairing my cognitive ability, and it's also
Absolutely.
doing damages to the system and to the body. Man, this is a good show, man. Really, I appreciate this, man. Come on.
You inspired me, man. I mean, you inspired the thought processes about how I got addicted.
Okay.
In terms of when I was 15, we used to put up $0.25 a piece, and Boone's Farm apple wine used to only cost $1 and a dime.
Woo.
So Boone Farm apple wine tasted really good.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, they started to make Strawberry Hill. So they've made two or three different flavors, and it was be 4 of us, and we all turned it up, and man, we was floating. But then all of a sudden, somebody suggested, let's go to Bacardi. So they wanted to get Bacardi and Coke. Then The next time I looked around, they started drinking gin and lime juice.
Mm-hmm.
Then, but you know, for me, alcohol in my head spinning and throwing up, I just did not like that feeling. So then we started smoking weed. And 17, I'm smoking weed, and all of a sudden I found something new I liked. And so smoking weed became part of my repertoire. I
Yeah, it gave
started,
you the
yeah,
munchies.
yeah, yeah. You know, I thought I listened to music better. I
Right,
thought
right.
I saw concerts better. Man, I was in Toronto, went to a concert, and I didn't have anything to get high off. I went to the bathroom to try to get some weed, and they wouldn't even let me get none. I thought I wasn't going to enjoy the concert.
Right, right,
Man, this
right.
was a classic Jackson 5 concert. So you
Mm-hmm.
know it's back in the day, Jackson 5. And I thought I couldn't enjoy it. That's how psyched out you are when it comes to using drugs. But then, you know, I became, like Jesse said, experimenting. I
Mm-hmm.
experimented with acid, with mescaline, with crystal THC. But you know, hallucinogens were never my thing. But when I tried heroin, that's became my drug of choice. And see, when you do the experimentation, you select what you like.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, I mean, crack became a lot of people's drug of choice because it gives you that high that nobody else has. I mean, it hit a pleasure system in your frontal cortex in the brain that just kind of, you know, your brain has these messenger systems that indicate you're feeling or sensing pleasure, and it release all these endorphins and those type of chemical transmitters that transmit in the brain that said, "Oh, you feel good." It's the feel good chemical transmitters, but man, that doggone crack, it exceeds the pleasure limit, and so you know you it's an instant addiction. So you have all these drugs, but for me it became the heroin, and
Mm-hmm.
for you it could become anything. That's why Jesse said, don't experiment. Don't use drugs or alcohol because they impair your mind, they impair your ability to rationally think, and it impair your motor skills. There's a variety of things that it could cause, and you definitely don't know when you're going to cross the line between pleasure and pain.
Ooh, yeah.
And you know, it's fun for a while, but then when that pleasure turned to pain, there's no demarcation line or warning signal that says you're getting ready to enter into the pain portion.
Wow, wow.
Before you know it, I can't do without this drug. I'm spending my money now. All my money is going toward the drug instead of paying my bills.
Wow. And you don't know which person you is, on the
Absolutely.
planet.
Absolutely.
You don't know. So my strong suggestion is don't experiment. Because you don't know. You might be a person that can use and become a functional person. They call them functional addicts, where you could go to work, pay your bills, and take care of your business, and still just kind of be using every day. But
Yes,
the
sir.
psychological and the physical logical effects that substance have on the body is still the same, whether you functional or dysfunctional.
Yes, sir.
Or you may be that person that you hit it one time, and next thing you know, you addicted, and you done went off to the races, and next time you wake up, be 15 years later, and you wonder what happened to those 15 years.
Doc, you and I therapists, and I had a client that was coming to me because the court said she had a DUI, or this person had a DUI. This person had a DUI and was mad because the courts was making her not drink, telling her she can't drink. You
Okay.
know, so you know, some people feel like that's overstepping the legal bounds, telling me what I can and can't do. And so, you know, they were lamenting to me, I've got a relative that drink every day and nothing has happened to them. They don't have any DUI. They never went to jail. And, you know, they were kind of talking about this person. But 3 months later, that same person came in my office just crying and grieving and said, you know, the person I was telling you about, they're getting ready to die from cirrhosis of the liver. Now
Mm.
they were functional. They were going to work every day, but there are consequences physically and mentally for using drugs and alcohol. And, that sort of shook that person and made that person recognize that there are consequences other than get a DUI is a blessing in disguise. A DUI is saying, uh, this may be time for me to stop because I crossed the line, and the Lord allowed you to arrest that behavior. Because when you get arrested, that's my friend Frank Day would say that's just a way of putting your bad behaviors to rest for a minute. And so you get arrested with a DUI, it's putting that behavior to rest for a minute for you to think about what you're doing. And so it's a blessing to get a DUI, and they're not telling you you can't drink, but what they're saying is you probably don't have the ability to limit or to control your drinking, and so you need to stop because you're a danger to society.
And then sometimes after the fact, they be thanking the judge and
Yeah,
thanking the probation officer and thanking the parole officers after the facts. When it first go in, they say, "Man, y'all meddling. You in my business. I can't drink. I can't. I
yes,
can't do.
sir.
You telling me I'm dropping dirty. I mean, you tell. I mean, you when you first come out, they be mad. But then sometimes after a while, people get educated and get inspired, and they feel like, if this smoke wasn't really supposed to be going through my lungs. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And drugs were, I mean, and I know there's some drugs out here to balance us out. You may have high blood pressure and you
Yes.
need a medical substance to balance out your blood pressure. You might have diabetes and you need a medical substance to balance out your intake and your sugar levels. You might have some mental health challenges and you might need some medication
Yes, sir.
to balance out your mental health. So I'm talking about you choosing the medication without a diagnosis and you out here prescribing to yourself.
Self-medicate.
Self-medicating
Yes, sir.
and
Yes, sir.
prescribing to yourself.
Yes,
That's
sir.
where a person really crossed the line at.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's where the line is really, really being crossed. Man, I thank God for another opportunity, man, to just sit back and talk about recovery on a platform like this. So I'd like to take a pause for a few moments, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. I am Jesse Washington with my interview, with Mr. Gregory Lindsey
Yes, sir.
on Recovery Live Global. See you in a minute. Well, you might be out there and you want to support the Recovery Live Global efforts. You can do so by purchasing one of our Recovery Live Global t-shirts. So I'm wearing one. If you look at it, it's here. We're moved into merchandise. So you can call us at 313-694-2140. That's 313-694-2140. And just say, hey, I want to support the ministry. I want to support Recovery Live Global by purchasing one of our Recovery Live Global t-shirts. And I had shared with those, if you live in the metropolitan area and you want a t-shirt, I'll deliver it. I'll deliver it myself. There's no cost for deliverance. So call us and purchase your Recovery Live Global t-shirt in support of the Recovery Live Global show. So, support us. It'll be a good thing. Well, welcome back to Recovery Live Global. I'm your host, Jesse Washington, and my guest today is Gregory Lindsey. We've been talking about the background of recovery and addiction,
Yes.
and we've been talking a lot of ebonics and street terms as it relate to getting people to hear about the recovery process and what things are at. Greg was just sharing with me that there was some national statistics out there that we want to share to our listening audience at this time.
Yes, as you all know, fentanyl is becoming a what we would call a killer in our communities. The CDC has already issued this opioid epidemic as being severe, and the reason it's severe is because of this one drug called fentanyl. And so on May 10th, there are some community action groups that got together and decided to come up with Fentanyl Awareness Day because people need to be aware of the dangers of fentanyl. Fentanyl is affecting a lot of people simply because it's 50 times more potent than morphine. And nobody knows just the amounts that would cause a person to overdose on. Fentanyl is being used now. They got what they call these fake devices that they use, or they use these schemes in order to get fentanyl more introduced into these street drugs. So people who buy heroin more than likely are buying heroin laced with fentanyl. People buying cocaine, they're lacing cocaine with fentanyl. They're lacing marijuana with fentanyl. They're lacing methamphetamines with fentanyl so people can get hooked on fentanyl. Matter of fact, they even have fentanyl pills. They don't sell the pill or market it as fentanyl. What they'll do is they'll market it as oxycodone because a lot of people buy oxycodone and Vicodins off the street. So they'll have a fentanyl inside of those pills that they mark as Vicodin, but they're really fentanyl pills. So it's causing it's causing a national concern because as I read some of these statistics, uh, let me share some of these statistics with you. According to the CDC, there will be 70,000 deaths involving illicit fentanyl in the 12-month period ending November 2021. Data shows that fentanyl was involved in more deaths of Americans under 50 than any cause of death. Get this, including heart disease, cancer, suicide, homicide, other accidents, and illnesses. And it's really affecting our young people. For the 12-month period ended in September 2021, drug deaths grew fastest among young people aged 19 and under, increasing by 26%. Did you know illicit fentanyl was involved in 76% of those drug deaths for this age group? In the 15 to 24 age group, there were 7,500 drug-related deaths during this period, and 6,000 of those 7,500 deaths, or 80% of them, involved the drug fentanyl. This is startling, you know, and even for high school students, it's growing. The overdose death is grown by 169%, according to the CDC. So should raise some alarms in our communities, and I'm glad it's coinciding with Mental Health Awareness Month, which is in May, because a lot of people self-medicate. So they just take medicines because they want to feel good. But if you know every drug has a reason or a purpose. When we think about opioids, it's really a painkiller. And there are people who live in chronic pain and they may benefit from opioids because what an opiate does is go directly to the point of pain, while the Tylenol will go to the brain to help with the brain function of the pain. But you know, both of those work in conjunction with each other. Cocaine, even as an anesthetic, most of these drugs have what we call Schedule 2. They do have a medicinal purpose. There are some drugs like marijuana, they try to move it to a Schedule II, but say it's that it has medicinal purposes. For me, it's hard to imagine something that you put in your lungs. You smoking, and it's it's supposed to be benefit your health some kind of way. When I first smoked a cigarette, my lungs said, get that foreign substance out of me because it's going to damage me. But that's that's my spin on it. But they said it had they said it had medicinal purposes. But we do need to be aware of fentanyl and the devastation it's causing in our society and in our communities. And Detroit Wayne is doing everything we can. We have even what we call harm reduction. We don't call it treatment, but we have harm reduction devices such as fentanyl strips, because some people just not going to stop using. That's the bottom line. But we have providers that are out in the communities passing out fentanyl strips, so at least they have the opportunity to test whatever drug they're using to see if fentanyl is in that particular drug, so that they can say, well, if fentanyl's in it, I don't want to use it. Okay. So that will help reduce the overdose rate. We also have where they have clean needles, where you can have needle exchange instead of exchanging needles, because people are dying from like AIDS and different other diseases because you're sharing needles. But you can get clean needles. We have those type of programs. And we also have the drug called Narcan, or naloxone is the chemical name. Narcan is the brand name, and all it does is help to reverse opioid overdose. Wow. And we're trying to get this into every individual's hand, because if you like me, there's somebody in your family, somebody in your community that's using opioids, and you will never know how many lives can be saved if they have naloxone on the scene, because it will reverse an opioid overdose. And we're trying to get this out into all communities. We're even going in churches, training churches how to use naloxone, because it's a simple use, but we want to make sure people know how to use it, and so we can save more lives. Because this fentanyl, the cartels, they manufacture it, they're over it, and they flooded our communities with it. And it's an uphill battle. The government haven't been able to stop it. Just 2 days ago in Warren, they stopped a car with 20 pounds of fentanyl hidden inside powder form and pill form. It's just getting into our communities, and we need to try to counteract it the best we can. But we do need to make people aware of the consequences of using fentanyl and the havoc is creating in our community as far as overdose deaths.
Yeah, we thank you for that information, man. It's a lot of information out there to let people know. Just let them know. When you know better, you do better.
Yes,
and a lot of individuals just don't know about a Narcan kit. They just don't even know. And Narcan have saved so many lives.
Yes, sir.
Dial 911, but pull out your Narcan. I got one in my car.
I meant to bring it in the studio.
I got it at the church office, because you never know. You just never know where it's going to happen at, and you can save a life and stop a death with a Narcan kit. And it's an easy process. They got them in the police cars. They got them on the EMS trucks. They got them on the fire trucks.
Absolutely.
And we need them in our cars too, because you never know when you're going to run into a situation where a person have overdosing off of any kind of opioids, and you can stop that overdose immediately. And so that's a good piece and a good thing to have. Our show is designed to educate and inspire individuals to help out in the recovery processes against addiction. So I really appreciate the show. I like talking about recovery. I talk with some individuals that said that I can't really go on Recovery Live show because somebody gonna see me. You know what I'm saying? Somebody gonna see me on the Recovery Live show, and because of the stigma that's associated with addictions, till they gonna fire me.
Right.
Not only fire me, they not gonna let me preach no more, or they not gonna let me
Wow.
teach no more. They not gonna
Wow.
let me work with their children no more. They not gonna let me function in mainstream society anymore. But our focus here is to break the stigma that's associated with addictions and recoveries and things like that. Somebody in recovery gotta say, I'm in recovery.
Yes,
You
sir.
know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Somebody
sir.
gotta say it. Why? Because people need to know that everybody is just not dying in their addiction. There's some people in recovery. And we all over the place.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
all
Yes,
over the
sir.
place.
Yes,
We
sir.
on the news. We in teaching capacities. We in government capacities.
Yes, sir.
We in ministerial
Yes,
capacities.
sir.
We all over the place. But if you don't raise your hand and say I'm in recovery, then people gonna believe what the news say and what the lies say, and the stats say that once a addict is always an addict, and you're gonna die in your you're gonna die like that,
My
and they don't.
God.
And but somebody need to know and need to see. So if you out there and you in recovery, I mean, you may not be able to come on TV like and say it on this magnitude, but tell somebody,
Yes, sir.
because it's people in addiction that just want to hear somebody say that I ain't using today.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
able to get through a day without using today. And I'm going
Yes,
to tell
sir.
you, that go a long, long way. It's too many of us that have came from addiction and moved over into recovery and then put a mask on like we never had a problem because of the stigmas that's associated with the problems.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? And we don't want to talk about it because people gonna say that go one of them. Oh yeah, he wanted them, or she wanted them, or whatever.
Yes, sir.
And because the stigma that's associated with people in addiction, people that's in recovery don't want to talk about it because they don't want to get judged as being one of them. But somebody got to raise their hand and got to stand up and say, I'm in recovery today. By the
Yes,
grace of
sir.
God. By the
Yes,
grace of
sir.
God.
Jesse and I are pastors. We represent Jesus Christ in front of an audience, and our people have learned to accept who we are because they know that our lives have been transformed and changed by the power of God. They can tell by what we say and what we do. But the thing about this stigma, I used to work the access phones, or what we call access. In other words, when people wanted to get into treatment and they called a 1-800 number, I used to be the one that did the screenings. And you should hear how many people, innocent people, who never thought they would ever use drugs, they look down on the drug addict and the intravenous drug user, and they scoffed at them and called them junkies. But here were suburban housewives and young tennis players and people who had injuries by default, maybe a car accident or a sports injury, went to the doctor, was prescribed an opiate for pain, and started taking it for medical purposes, but then start liking it start liking how it made them feel. And all of a sudden, when the doctor cut off the prescription, they start going out to the street to buy the opiate. And then from going out to the street, the pill form started costing a little, it became expensive. So what they started doing, the dealer would say, well, why would you keep buying these expensive pills when you can get something cheaper? I got this heroin, it's cheaper. And they'll, in order to get that feeling, they would buy the heroin, and your heroin, you build up a tolerance to it, like any drug. Your body build up a tolerance where it's going to take a little more for you to get that desired effect, and then it's going to take a little more, and after a while, the addiction is out of control. You can't get enough money. You got 100 dollar a day habit. And these were people who never set out in their mind said, I'm going to be a drug addict. But they became addicted because of the pharmaceutical companies' false disclosure saying that opiates that were put in these pharmaceutical drugs that they were using was not that addictive. They tried to downplay the addictive properties of the opiate, and it caused this what we call opioid crisis. So now you like I said, there are people who would have never thought about putting a needle in their arm, but because of the opioid crisis, you have a broad spectrum. There's many faces to addiction. Like I said, from the suburban housewife to the Muslim to the person who goes to church. There's a cross sector of people that it hits, and we just have to be aware that there shouldn't be a stigma because nobody set out in their minds to say, I'm going to be a drug addict. I'm going to be the best drug addict there is. It happens by chance, but there is help. And that's what Jesse is so ingenious. And just like when churches couldn't meet because of the pandemic and we had to go to the Facebook and to these virtual platforms, Jesse, God blessed him to have this vision because of his heart to help those who are addicted. Put this platform worldwide, global recovery, so that people can see that recovery is possible. And I thank God for giving Jesse this vision and this platform. And I'm just praying that it keep going out so that people can be reached and know that there is help, that you can recover, and you once were an addict, but now you are in recovery.
Amen. Amen. Good. Man, I could go on and on because I keep getting another thought.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then I get another,
Yes, sir. Yes,
another
sir.
thought.
Yes, sir.
Then I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that. Man, I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to put a pin in it. I'm going to put a pin in it and save some for next week.
Yes, sir.
And is it any closing remarks that you would like to have or to share with our viewing audience before we put the pin in it? And I'll be saying, I'll see you next week. Any closing?
What I would say is that anybody in Wayne County that needs help and they want to overcome an addiction, please call 1-800 241 4949 800-241-4949. The resources are available 24 hours, 7 days a week. There's never a day off. You can always call and you can receive the help that you need because we want to make sure that you can get into recovery and you can be like Jesse, clean and sober for over 30 odd years.
Woo! Man, that's a beautiful thing. Go ahead, my brother.
Because your program is so effective and because it reaches such a large scale audience, a broad audience, Detroit Wayne Integrated Network is backing or giving some financial support to this program. We want this program to be funded, and we want to help fund some of it. And we would love to see other people who believe in recovery support this program because it is vital to get the recovery message out. And Detroit Wayne, Jesse has been a part of Detroit Wayne for years. He's worked under the banner of Detroit Wayne in terms of being a provider of recovery services. He's done outpatient therapy, case management, recovery coaching. He has an accountability home. Jesse is steeped in knowledge and experience in recovery, and so much so, he is so effective that Detroit Wayne is looking to financially back and help support this program because of its effectiveness in the recovery community, because again, we are all about recovery. So we thank you for this opportunity, Jesse, just to share on this program. And we are glad that you have this program on platform, and we do want to support you.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been another segment of Recovery Live Global. I'll see you next week.
Stepping on